Welcome back, YouTubers, to another audio or podcast, if you want to call it, with us, the British Fist, NJ. Yeah, definitely. That's the sign, even though you can't see it. We can still see it here with us two anyway. I am Mr. Parkin, as you all know, and this guy sitting next to me, it's NJ.
What's up?
And you can't see it, but you can definitely hear him. This is the podcast of the week where we discuss all the good and all the bad happening in pro wrestling on Raw, TNA, and SmackDown for the week.
And overall, it's been I would say, fairly good week. It's had a lot of good stuff ready for the week before SummerSlam.
Yep. And the week going into Hardcore Justice as well. We had a good, what I feel was a very good Raw, what I feel was a very good go-home show for TNA in terms of Hardcore Justice, and an average SmackDown, maybe a less than average SmackDown. But make sure you guys subscribe up above, of course, like this video, and put your comments on anything you hear in this video down below. Maybe you should share your thoughts on the week in wrestling yourself. Make sure to contact us, as NJ will tell you now.
In the links in the screen box below.
Yes, facebook.com/British Fist. We've got Twitter, we've got Skype on there as well. And make sure to contact us with questions for our Q&A, etc. So, should we get on to this Good and Bad of the Week podcast where we talk for an hour, NJ?
Yes!
So this was the Raw where we had CM Punk officially signed back for WWE, it would seem. He opened the show, didn't he, in what I thought was a very interesting opening promo, which lasted for about 25 minutes with Triple H in it as well. What did you think of that? I thought it was very good.
With Punk being the one to open, I'm saying that with him getting the main event on SummerSlam, with him being so great on mic, it definitely gave the opening of Raw a good feeling.
And it was his official return as well. So I guess for him to open the show, it was very good. Before I just move on quickly, I just want to say that I really enjoyed Raw altogether. I really did.
Overall, the Raw, yes, it did a lot of great stuff, and it definitely gave us entertainment throughout the show. Yeah.
And one thing I will say, last week I thought the WWE may have blown their wad a little bit with all the stuff they did, but this week they didn't. They showed me that. They didn't exactly blow their wad, but they showed me that they could use this week. They showed me last week could be done for that with all the returns, and this week was done for building up feuds and stuff for the pay-per-view, which is what I like this Raw so much.
The good thing about this is, exactly, I'm going to plug something quickly. CM Punk's podcast he did on
ESPN.
Yeah, the main thing he said, which brings Dan's point, is he wants to bring back when you want to tune in next week. You want to find out what they do next. I think this Raw was an example of what Dan's just said from last week to this week. And
not only that, but like I said, it really gave us a good indication of what we were going to be getting at SummerSlam. We got a good indication of, Punk and Cena, A-Rai and Ziggler, Miz and Ray, R-Truth and Morrison. We even got a bit of Del Rio, Kofi Kingston. So we got a good little teaser there of what we would expect at SummerSlam, and they did a decent job of building up these feuds. We had a good combination of matches and promos, in my opinion. The promos I thought were done very well. The matches weren't the best, but there was a good combination there, I thought.
I think they've done well with knowing that SummerSlam's coming up. Give the people who are actually, the wrestlers that are actually involved in it, that have a feud going, give them some kind of involvement with each other leading to the pay-per-view, so I think they did good there.
Yep, so the involvement of Punk and Triple H in the opening promo, I say, was very good. Mainly because you have Punk who's returning, and Triple H who is going to be, he's going to be this authority figure now, and is very new into this, so you've got to give him a lot of TV time as well to establish this authority figure. So overall, even though I thought this lasted a little bit long, I did think this was a good, effective opening segment.
The good thing about it as well is it also teased that there could be something between CM Punk and Triple H.
In the future, yeah.
Which, yes, the contract was seeing thing for now because it's leading to SummerSlam. They're also teasing us what could happen in the future, which I thought was good because obviously it's giving us something else to maybe look forward to as well as the Cena thing.
This could potentially be a very big storyline. You have the it reminds me kind of Austin and Vince McMahon back in the Attitude Era. You have the authority figure who doesn't like the guy who people like, which is in this case is Triple H because he's playing this authority figure. And you have CM Punk who's very over with the crowd, who represents the people, so to speak. And that kind of feud could work, especially because we know how successful the Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon feud was from the Attitude Era. Why couldn't it work now with Triple H and CM Punk? It's not quite as high profile. It may not be as well done, but it'll still be very good.
I'm thinking the way that CM Punk sees Triple H and Triple H sees CM Punk,
Actually,
this could go on perfectly because they both have dislike towards each other, so they can continue using that in the future.
Yeah, and this, like I said, this promo lasted a little bit long. The reason why I say this is because it kind of affected the flow of the show going into the next half an hour, because you had 25 minutes of segment here, and that meant you had to put a couple more adverts in. So you had more adverts during promos, more adverts during matches, which kind of affected the next hour a little bit. But I guess it kind of balances itself out when you see how good the opening promo was, how well they're both on the mic, because they really did show a lot of heat between each other, you know, compared to that stuff I just said there.
Because the thing is, I know the commercials are a bit of a bum, but obviously WWE get their money from it. So instead of having a commercial-free Raw just for this because of how important it was, I think they've done it the best they could. Have the important opening promo all the way through, and they kind of affected the rest of the night. But I think the way they've done it was great for the opening promo.
Yep. Do you know one thing here, MJ? Usually a Divas segment is in the bad part of our thing. But this was one of the more interesting Divas segments, dare I say, of the year. Because we have Beth Phoenix not just winning the #1 contendership in the Battle Royal, which we both liked and we were both marking out for, because we love Beth Phoenix and we think she needs to be in this Divas division, the top of this Divas division. But not only that, but she turns heel as well. And the way it was done, it was just, I just feel like it was one of the more interesting things they've done with the Divas for a while.
Oh yes, it was very interesting, Dan.
Really? You're not going to go to this thing again, are you? Oh,
yes, I think I am. Beth Phoenix is the heel again.
Well,
yes.
I think the Bellas put in a very good performance. Did you see how they were flailing on Beth Phoenix's shoulders? It was very interesting. I'd so bone them, wouldn't you?
The strength of Beth Phoenix is superb.
Yes, I've spontaneously combusted. And in case you didn't know, that is our Tea Time segment, guys. Interrupting us. Go away, guys. We don't need you in here. God's sake. But yeah, all seriousness, all puns and comedy put aside, because I fucking love that. That's funny. It was a very good segment, and I really did think it's really now interested me in this Divas feud, because you've got Beth Phoenix, who plays this very dominant heel, against Kelly, who's this model diva, and now all of a sudden you've had this revolt of these divas that we know are very good against these model divas, and no one really likes these model divas as champions. So why not have Beth Phoenix go and win the title? The
way I look at it is that many divas seem to like to be the faces because it gets the crowd all happy and all jolly about divas. Kelly. That's true. As I'm saying, with having we've had heel divas come into the WWE, but they've left. Like we've had Leigh Corley now. Gone.
Pretty much gone, yeah.
Now we need to get new heels into it, apart from the Bella twins. We need new ones. So now we're getting Beth Phoenix, which I think is going to be awesome for the future of Raw.
And one of the best things about that Battle Royal was seeing the Bellas being hoisted above Beth Phoenix's shoulders and then released immediately to the ground. That was a great moment, because I fucking hate the Bellas and I wish they'd just fuck off out of the WWE. I really do. I hate them.
And that brings up the whole point. I said I hate diva tag teams. They got rid of one, which is good. Yeah. Why keep this one?
Exactly. Yeah. What's the point? Personally, I didn't mind Leigh Corley, but I can see your point. They were very annoying. Flawless. It was more annoying, but they got over his heels, I guess. Do you want to go on to the tag match that we got, which is between Miz and R-Truth and Rey and Morrison? It's kind of a combination of two feuds. We got Morrison and Truth, and Rey and Miz had that match the week before with the title. So I guess it's a combination of two feuds. Again, we might be seeing these two feuds done at some point in SummerSlam. We know that the WWE are very high on Miz and Rey, so this is another way of getting them on the card. So I did kind of like this tag team match. It combined two feuds, which I think will happen at SummerSlam.
When I look at this, I'm thinking that this is a great way to have 4 wrestlers in one go and just put on an entertaining match. But thinking about it, as it went on, again, they're really being poor to Morrison.
They are.
Morrison was great before he left the WWE because of his injury, and now he comes back, and you're like, where's the Morrison that we saw before you left? So I kind of think this match could have been a perfect way for him to get justice, but sadly it weren't. He
already lost his return match to Christian on SmackDown, which was bad. And then all of a sudden you have him being pinned by Truth. And in my opinion, the whole point of these tag matches is so you don't have because Truth pins Morrison, and I don't want to see Morrison get buried. Why don't you pin Rey Mysterio? So you're not burying Morrison too much going into the pay-per-view. Because at the moment we've seen him lose 3 matches going into this pay-per-view. It's not exactly the best way of building someone who's just returned, is it?
No, 3 essential weeks leading up to SummerSlam. You're meant to be making the wrestlers going into the pay-per-view have something like, yes, he's ready for the pay-per-view. Yeah. Morrison, yes, he can still move in the ring and that, but he's not actually able to be in that thinking, here could be a possible winner here. he's still got what he used to have. He's just. I was really hoping more from Morrison this match.
Same here. I think that's just the way WWE have really booked him since he's been back. It's been really weak, hasn't it?
Even worse. It's a step further, which I think was incredibly wrong. They had John Morrison get pinned by R-Truth, and then they had Miz attack him, which again they're not the ones who are going into SummerSlam, and then you have R-Truth continue the attack on Morrison. I'm thinking, how much do you want to bury Morrison leading to the pay-per-view?
It does bury him, but at the same time, it does do a little bit of hype for the pay-per-view, I guess, because you need the heel to be on top, just not that much.
No,
3 times in what 1.5 weeks. The match itself was actually very good, though. I did feel it was a very good tag team match. When you have 4 wrestlers like this, especially guys like Ray, Miz, who can really work in tag team matches because they've been there before. Miz was in a tag team before. R-Truth was in a tag team before. John Morrison's been in a tag team before. So you're going to get good tag team wrestling, and that's one thing I liked about this Raw. We got 2 tag matches, and this one I thought was very good. I did enjoy it.
I enjoyed it. It's just that the ending really let me down.
It did
really let me down.
One thing I did like about this though was the fact they had 2 segments before this match showing Miz and R-Truth as a team and Rey Mysterio as a team. I did enjoy the fact they brought that in because I do think WWE kind of missed the ball on that sometimes. They don't really show these guys as teams, and showing them as teams it kind of helps the match. I feel a lot. Especially, when they haven't really teamed up that much before, it kind of helps the build going into the match, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think with their segments that they try and throw into the shows, it does do well for the matches upcoming. So yeah.
Do you want to move on to the Ziggler-A-Rai feud then?
Yeah, we've got a bit to say about this.
Yep. Initially, we're going to go through the good first. We're kind of combining the good and bad here because there was a lot combined in each segment, so we thought we'd go through each segment first. I like the idea of A-Rai and Ziggler having a feud, mainly because I feel that Ziggler needs a credible face to go up against. And at the moment, you don't want to see him go up against Kofi. Evan Bourne, I don't think is good enough to go against Ziggler. We saw him get squashed on this week's Raw. So why not have A-Rai, who's just come off a rivalry with Miz? He's very high up there. He's very over the crowd. Why not have A-Rai go after him? And especially seeing as A-Rai needs to go after a mid-card title to build himself up after he's just had this huge introduction from WWE and this huge face turn, which worked very well.
With A-Rai, I'm saying that he needs to do something in the WWE.
Yes.
But the thing is, he was going against the Miz, and I'm thinking their rivalry just seemed to have
ended
disappeared,
didn't it?
Yeah, and I'm thinking you could have had a perfect ending match at SummerSlam to finish them off. They didn't even give us that. So they've moved us on to now, as we've just said, A-Rai versus Ziggler. And I'm saying that it's given A-Rai something to do, but at the same time, if they're going to go on for the United States Championship, I'm thinking they should have been the more contender, because the thing is, with the more contenders, it makes the match more deserved, or reason behind it, and it would probably give A-Rai, as he would have won the number contender if it happened, it would have made him look a lot stronger going against.
It could have been hard to put him against the heel. I mean, you've got A-Rai and Swagger on Superstars. Why not have them in a number contendership match? Or A-Rai, Swagger, and not Morrison, Drew McIntyre or something. That could have worked as a number 1 contendership match, couldn't it? Have that done this week, maybe have this promo next week.
So that's what I think. As much as this rivalry that we're going to be getting has good points, I'm just thinking if they do go on and face each other for the title at SummerSlam, they've done it a bit quickly.
Yeah, and I didn't think the segment was very good either, to be honest. The whole premise of the segment was A-Rai coming out and trying to say to Ziggler, "Oh, you should go away from Ziggler and go away from Vicky Guerrero." I do feel if Ziggler wants to develop into a main event star, he'll probably need to ditch Vicky Guerrero at some point. So he did raise a good point. It's just that the segment didn't seem to have too much flow to it, and it didn't really seem to have too much point. If you know what I mean, I can understand trying to introduce A-Rai, but the segment itself didn't really establish properly a Ziggler-A-Rai feud, I guess.
No, Ziggler was actually doing an open challenge sort of thing, so he thinks he's better than everyone else. It did give an opening for him to come out.
He is perfection.
That is true. It gave an opening for A-Rai to come out. But the whole promo itself, I was watching thinking that I can't really feel this. It's not something that's making me think that there's something special here or something good here. So I don't think it did its job as much as it could have done.
It could have been a lot better. We know A-Rai is great on the mic. It's just a shame Ziggler isn't. At least Vicky Guerrero kind of makes up for it, I guess.
She did try,
and she's actually looking quite nice nowadays, isn't she, old Vicky Guerrero?
She's doing good for herself, I
think. We also had a tag team championship sighting on this Raw, didn't we? We had the tag champions in a match. Now, the reason why I put this on the good list is because we didn't see them for like a month. When they won it, we didn't see them for a fucking month. And now at least they're being prominently featured more on TV. They were on SmackDown this week as well. At least, even though I'm not a big fan of these two as the champs, at least they're being featured on TV more. So it means we're seeing our tag champions more. Whereas before, we were never fucking seeing them.
We've got now, they're no longer in Nexus.
Nope.
They're just their own tag team.
Fuck for that.
Which I think is pretty good, because obviously Nexus has been destroyed when Punk decided to go into his own thing.
Mm-hmm.
This match itself, they're against Santino and Ryder.
It wasn't a very good match, was it?
No, but the thing I will say is that it's kind of a bit of a shame because not enough tag teams. So when you see not Nexus, David and Michael in a match, you're thinking, oh, they're going to face blah blah, they're going to face blah blah.
There's very limited options, isn't there?
Yes, I think it made that quite poor. That's why they gave him a weird tagging of these two.
I can see the idea of putting Santino and Ryder together. Santino is a comedic character who's very over with the crowd. Ryder is this sort of, the internet guy, as we all know. We don't really like him. But these two as a tag team, I can understand it, but at least they jobbed. I mean, that's all I can really say about this. And we've got two tag team matches in one night, which I kind of liked, even though this match really wasn't that good and didn't really give me any indication that they would be featured on the pay-per-view, and I don't feel they will be featured on the pay-per-view at any point, the tag champs.
No, it made them look strong because the way they won the match was quite clever in that. But again, I can't really say that they've got much importance in Raw.
It just really exemplifies the tag team division as a whole at the moment, doesn't it? It is dying, literally. I mean, if they're going to bring in guys like Kings of Wrestling, or if they're going to bring through talent such as Seth Rollins and Richie Steamboat, they really need to build this tag team division a bit better. But there we go. That's just at least they got on TV. That's the positive, really, I see in that.
I think because of this weird pairing of Santino and Ryder, the WWE need to look at what tag teams they've got and think, there's something wrong here. We need to start making tag teams. We need to start hiring new wrestlers in or something, because it's not doing Raw any good. I
feel the problem is in the Attitude Era, we always had a huge roster. The thing about when we had in the Attitude Era, and even the early brand split eras, we always had plenty of wrestlers, so we could always stick two guys together as a tag team and make it work, and then have enough room for mid-card feuds and stuff. But now I feel that, a good tag team could be Evan Bourne and Kofi Kingston, but then you take two guys out of your mid-card, which could really be useful there, and you can't really do it anymore, can you? It means it just goes to show that WWE need more guys in their roster, in my opinion, if they're going to make the tag team championships work. Or if they're not going to make them work, you might as well just get rid of them, even though I don't want to do that, because that's a prestigious title.
And one problem they do have to tag titles is that the tag teams they do have, they're splitting up.
Yes.
Like we've had the release of Kozlov, so Kozlov and Santino have now split.
The split of the Hearts.
The Heart, that's another one. They've had Crime Time, Nexus, Core. Yeah. So they're breaking up tag teams. So that's why it's going to get damaged as time goes on.
Okay. You had a point about Evan Bourne in this Raw?
The thing was that Evan Bourne, there's loads of people that think Evan Bourne should be getting involved because he's been going through different things in his career. He comes into WWE and he is actually good at wrestling. So having him getting involved, I know he's only a jobber into Del Rio, but it's getting him involved in wrestling, so I'm thinking that is going to be good for the fans of Evan Bourne.
And it's allowing Kofi, what it's basically doing, we've seen Kofi Kingston versus Del Rio, twice now? And we're probably going to see it at the pay-per-view. We don't want to see it again, so at least WWE here have thought to themselves, let's get someone else to face that Del Rio. Del Rio squashed Evan Bourne, but the whole point of it was that we had Kofi Kingston come out to make the save. They didn't really do much, they didn't touch each other at the time, and it's kind of just, it's a lot better than just having them face in a couple of matches, because we've seen it twice on TV. Why the fuck would we want to see it on the pay-per-view?
I'm thinking with SmackDown, Raw making use of their other wrestlers than, as you said, Kofi Kingston. I think it's giving them a chance to get involved in some kind of, not storyline, not feud, but actually involved in wrestling.
Yeah, to help the feud come along.
Yeah, that's true.
Pretty much. Is that what you pretty much want to say about Evan Bourne?
Pretty much, that was it, really.
Okay, then. What about the main event, then? The main event, we had the announcement of Cena Punk at SummerSlam. What did you think of the main event itself? I think it established what it was supposed to, which was the match at SummerSlam. I just feel it could have been done a hell of a lot simpler. I don't know why they brought John Laurinaitis out and they went for all that shit first before they actually announced the match.
Well, that's a bad point, but at the same time, I think that was just Vince's way to still be involved in wrestling, because obviously it was all like, oh, Vince sent me and all this and all that. I think it was just Vince having still involvement in wrestling, but not as much as Triple H, because it ended up basically with Triple H taking over again and back into making the SummerSlam match between CM Punk and Cena.
Yeah, I think what I want to say here, just something quickly about SummerSlam. I do feel that even though this match has got a good story behind it and it's one of the hottest storylines of the year, in my opinion, it's going to be very hard for them to emulate them in the Bank match simply because they don't have the Chicago crowd and they don't have that same storyline which was so over. Even though they do have a storyline now, it's going to be a lot harder for them to emulate that match, in my opinion, even though I do still think it'll be a decent match. Maybe have a stipulation, like a ladder match or something.
The way I'm thinking about this is that we know CM Punk and John Cena can put on a somewhat of a great match.
We saw it at Money in the Bank.
As we saw. So I'm thinking with this match having more importance, they're both going to be going at it, I think. So I'm thinking it might not match up to Money in the Bank, but it'll be a runner-up, I think.
I feel that this is kind of similar to Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, because the one at WrestleMania 25 was the better match, but the one at WrestleMania 26 had better emotion and better drama, and that's what I feel will be more in this. You can see what I mean? Can you see the comparison I'm making? The first match will be a better match, but the second one maybe you have a bit more drama.
Because like the HBK and Take match, the second one had actually a story to it, which was the whole you'll be fired and all
Street
that.
versus career.
Yeah. With this one, it's having the WWE's title on the line, so it's going to have that great importance there.
One champion versus another undisputed championship.
So I think that's going to make the great main event of SummerSlam. So hopefully, when it comes to SummerSlam, it'll be another great event.
I do hope it is. And we got 2 matches announced on this Raw. We got the Divas match and the main event, which I think was okay, even though we're only a week there. But I think next week is a very pivotal show because this is the week they're going to have to announce most of their matches, hype most of their feuds, and get us really involved in SummerSlam, which is one of their big 4 of the year. So I do think next week's Raw is essential, more essential than this week's.
Well, the thing is, with the recent Raws we've had, they've all been great one way or another. So I think with this last Raw, I'm going to go into this next Raw with good hopes.
Same here, so am I. Let's hope next week Raw is very good. Like we said, we thought Raw was at least a B+ this year.
It was really good.
Yeah,
nicely
definitely. Shall we then, move on from that? Should we go on to TNA?
Yes. So on TNA this week, NJ, we began with an Immortal opening promo. This is pretty standard stuff. One thing I will say though, in this opening promo, at least we didn't see Hogan, Bischoff doing all the talking. We saw Bully Ray doing the talking, didn't we? And we saw Anderson there as well. It was good to see Bully Ray doing some talking rather than the usual dickheads. What I'm going to say a point about this is that we have Bully Ray who is making himself... It's like putting Bully Ray over and you have Anderson who's just standing there.
Yeah.
Just like... It's been in the past couple of weeks as well. Anderson's always been in the back.
Yeah.
And Bully Ray's always been up there doing all the talking and that. So that's the only bad thing I had about it. It's good that with this one, Anderson actually did step in and get involved with Bully Ray and actually telling him to shut up and speak to me and I don't like what's been happening and all that.
I think this was done to turn Anderson's face, really. It did seem that way, didn't it? And then they made a match at the pay-per-view, Bully Ray versus Anderson. Basically, Anderson says, well, I'm not booked, you're not booked, let's have a match.
I'm kind of glad they agreed to it because I think with these two, the way they are, or they were in Immortal, it kind of made me think that we need to settle this. They both think they're it. They both think they're the leader of Immortal. They need to settle it and bring out an overall winner or overall leader or overall whatever they're going to do.
And I just hope to God that Anderson just gets away from Immortal. Because ever since he's joined Immortal, his booking has just gone, hasn't it?
And my main thought when he joined Immortal was, this could be good because we're having someone as big as Anderson join the big group of Immortal. Yeah. Maybe this will help Anderson's career. But sadly, Immortal didn't really do anything for him.
No.
So I'm glad when this match does happen at the pay-per-view, it will probably pull Anderson away from Immortal.
It just makes this whole Anderson joining Immortal thing a bit pointless, unless the whole point of it was to make him face, in which case they've accomplished that. I do feel he's one of those guys that can get over as a face. He's like Stone Cold Steve Austin. He acted like heel, but was always over with the crowd. I think Mr. Anderson is similar in that way. He's a bit of an asshole, like he said, but the crowd still like him.
I think the way they've done this, making him go in there thinking that... Because at first, Anderson was unsure about joining Immortal, but obviously he went in there as a face. He didn't actually do heel stuff while he was in Immortal. I think he's coming out probably as a better face than he went in.
Probably. Opening segment though, one thing I liked about it is that it only lasted 8 minutes, which is a lot shorter than the usual segment. The only thing I'll say here is why have Immortal again? Why don't you have a promo where it promotes your main event or something? Or
Well, they did.
They had two
mention
segments, didn't they? Yeah. So I guess.
The Sting and thing at the end.
But at the time, it just didn't really seem like it had anything to do with the pay-per-view. And I'm thinking the opening segment of Go Home Show needs to have something to do with the pay-per-view. Until they announced the match, of course, which is a bit last minute, and I didn't really think it was that important. But
I don't think it's an important match. I think it was just one more to add to the card, just to get the card a bit more interesting, get more Immortal involved with the pay-per-view.
you mean a bit like the TNA Knockout Tag match that they stuck in there at the last minute for no reason?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So it was a pretty decent episode just because of its length and what it did for Anderson at the time. But what pretty much I want to say here for a couple of minutes is I want to talk about how I thought the Go Home show was very good, because it was a good Go Home show. It's what it needed, because you saw everyone in segments that were involved with the pay-per-view. Most people, pretty much everyone on that card was in this episode one way or another. You had the matches announced before the main event. Every match of the pay-per-view announced, apart from the match which they just stuck in at the last minute, the tag knockout tag match. And as a go home show, I thought it was very good. I enjoyed it.
I think it definitely gave us a good feeling towards the pay-per-view because of the matches that were made.
Even though the pay-per-view is mediocre at best, I feel it still did its job to hype all the matches and give all the matches time. Apart from maybe the match between Madison Rain and Miss Teschmacher, even though that had involved Mickey James a little bit. Maybe have Mickey James and Winter maybe involved in that match, maybe not together, but one of them against maybe Mickey James versus Madison Rain, or Winter versus Tara or something. I don't know. Just have something.
Happened, yeah.
Also, there was less backstage segments this week, wasn't there? There was still some, but not as many as last week. Because last week we had Sting shoved down our throats. We had loads of backstage segments, which made the show really poor. This week we had less of it. We didn't have Sting shoved down our throats. We had less backstage segments, which helps the show.
With the segments we got this week, I think they were actually needed apart from one.
Which one was that? The Eric Young one? Well, we'll talk about that in the bad, don't worry.
Yeah. We had that Buddy Ray on the phone, I think, because that eventually led on to a hype of them two falling out, so that was kind of needed. We had, Pope one backstage. I think the ones that we did get had importance to it, so I was kind of fine with the backstage segments we got this week.
And we also got plenty of matches too. We got 7 matches, I believe, this week, which is a lot more than TNA usually give us. And a couple of, and a lot of those matches actually got enough time, which is good. I thought the addition of plenty of matches. We had 4 BFG matches, 3 other matches. We had 2 other matches and 1 match which was shown on tape, the Sting and Angle empty arena match. I really like the fact that there was a lot of matches tonight. It really just because TNA put across this whole thing that wrestling matters, and it's finally good to see that it does seem to matter. Whereas last week we were thinking to ourselves, fucking hell, it's promos that matter in this business, brother.
It's like the thing we had first. When we first started watching TNA, we said about their roster being huge.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, with the way they've made less promos, less backstage segments, and more matches, I think they're actually making use of the amount of wrestlers they've got in the time they have.
Yes.
I think it was pretty good with the amount of matches we had on TNA.
And it's that usually I like a good balance of wrestling and promos, but I think we got 3 promos in this and we got 7 matches, so it's a good balance. I think that's the amount of wrestling you need on a show, because that's essentially what many people watch TNA for, and that is it's wrestling, because they feel that they do have very good wrestlers and a very good roster. So to actually put that out there for me was very good. Do you have anything else you want to say about the overall show before we go on to the more specifics of it?
No, I think that's it.
No? Okay then. The street fight. Although I felt this was a bit needless, I did like the match. The street fight between Robert Roode and Hernandez. The street fight was very good. They used weapons. It got a good amount of time. And even though the ending was a bit shit, I still did like this match a lot.
The way they did it, I think they could have done it quite easily as a single match, but I think they wanted a bit of an easy way, so it weren't always about fighting and that. The weapon usage was pretty good in this.
Yeah.
The match itself was a really entertaining match.
It
was good to get the wrestlers involved in that, so I quite liked it.
Yeah, it's just the problem with TNA street fights is, number one, you have James Storm and you have Mexican America on the outside. In a no disqualification match, why aren't they just all coming in the ring if it's a no disqualification match? And another thing, why do you need ref bumps when it's a no disqualification match? Do you know what I mean? Why do you need those ref bumps to cause a distraction when it's a no disqualification match and it wouldn't matter? That's the problem I have with most TNA street fights, especially on Impact Wrestling when they're not really advertised or anything like that. It just seems like really pointless to have when you're just going to have these problems. Why not just have a singles match? It makes it a lot easier. And you can have the match in DQ if you want to.
Throughout the match, I think the Street Fight was good. It's like if that referee thing was changed, as you said, put right, I think it would have made the match more interesting.
Yeah.
Like you had submission moves going, you had weapon usage, you had distractions.
Distractions.
Yeah, attacks. I think it was pretty good. It's just obviously the referee didn't do a Street Fight job.
Very rarely is a match perfect when you nitpick it, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Another match we got, which I thought was good, just because it focused entirely on the X Division, was the Austin Aries versus Alex Shelley match. It was a very, very good match, I thought. But I know you're going to say this, but we wanted to see this at the pay-per-view.
Because these two, you can clearly see the way how they are in the ring, that they make a great match.
It's a Bound for Glory series match made in heaven, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, the way these perform in the ring together, the way they look together, it's just like, you're giving us it for free on a normal TNA show, when these two could simply put on a great match at pay-per-view. I just thought that was poor.
Make people pay for it. Stop concentrating on your ratings and start concentrating on the hype for your pay-per-view. It's a problem which TNA have had quite a lot, but they addressed it. They've addressed it more now than they used to when I first started watching TNA.
That's the point. And the thing is that this match is basically already at the pay-per-view now in that triple threat thing.
Yeah.
So
we don't feel Hendricks is going to win that, do we? So we feel this is going to be the feud leading into Bound for Glory, rightfully so, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about that?
I think it was a decent match. It was as we said before, the Street Fight. This was another good match of the night. So yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Got good time as well. TNA gave the match good time. You've got two guys in there that can put on a great match together. You've got a great heel in Austin Aries and a great face in Alex Shelley. Like I said, it's the X Division. It's a Bound for Glory series. It's a Bound for Glory X Division title match made in heaven, in my opinion. And I hope to see Austin Aries get that strap at some point.
And now that leads us to the pay-per-view. We can only hope that these two can put on a better match what they did at TNA.
Because let's hope Benji loses that belt, because I don't want to see him hold that belt for another fucking week.
That would be a great idea.
Yes, it would. That would really make our day, wouldn't it? That would give us a straight A. Another thing I think what was good in this TNA Impact Wrestling episode this week was we had a segment where we had when it showed the empty arena match between Sting and Angle in 2009. And the reason I like this was because it's something new. We haven't really seen this before. We see Angle doing commentary, and it acknowledges the fact that they've had history, which helps to build up their feud, which hasn't really had proper build. The main build to it is the fact they've had history and the fact that Angle is a number one contender and Sting is the champion. And this kind of emphasised that, the history they had. And I really like this segment. Not only was it a good match, but it did good pay-per-view hype.
I think the empty arena match, it showed that, because Angle also explained how great the match was and how he performed in it and how Sting performed in it. It gave you a feeling on how important them two facing each other at the pay-per-view was going to be.
Definitely. I just like this whole thing. I mean, the main event got 2 segments in this show, which I think is good. Because you need to give your main event the most segments, because it is the most important thing, especially on this card, where most matches of Hardcore Justice do just seem like mid-card or less. So it's good that they're focusing on their main event in 2 segments, I feel.
Because there's many wonders about what's Angle actually going to do, because he's got this Olympic thing coming up. So it's kind of giving him his big moments, his big involvement in TNA before he actually goes in more depth with this Olympic thing. It's definitely doing good for Angle and both TNA.
Yep. The next good thing we want to go on to, is the tag match we had between RVD Crimson and Steiner and Gunner. And while I do feel this is a good match, I did really enjoy this match. I still don't understand why RVD got the pin. I don't understand why they're not giving the pin to guys like Crimson or Gunner, probably. Some people who we kind of know are going to be up there and maybe at the top of that, especially someone like Crimson, be at the top of that BFG series.
Because at the same time, it would have been good if Gunner got the win, because he got that recent push.
Yeah.
And then you thought, the TNA must like this guy. So I think they could have gave him the win over Rob Van Dam to continue making him look good leading to pay-per-view. But at the same time, they could have given it to Crimson, but even though I think it would benefit more for Gunner.
I do think RVD is one of those guys now that TNA just needs to look at him and say, right, we need to use RVD to put over guys like Crimson, to put over guys like Gunner, to put over guys like Bobby Roode. I think he needs to be in that kind of category now, which people like Sting really should be in at the moment, to put guys over and not be winning and in the main event. But at least it set up a Bound for Glory series match between Crimson and RVD, which they did do well, focusing on at the end. So that's one positive I'll take from it. Number 1 versus number 2 as well.
The thing is, Rob Van Dam, even though you said that he should become a guy to put people over. He's still an entertaining wrestler. So for him to go against Crimson, an undefeated guy, is definitely going to add an entertaining guy versus this winning streak guy. So it should put on an okay match.
I'm definitely expecting a good match between them two. If RVD can bring out the best in Jerry Lynn at Destination X, then these two can put on a good match, I feel. The main event segment, MJ. What did you think about the main event segment? Because I thought it was very good, simply because I'm one of those guys who feels that this feud, a feud where they haven't really touched each other too much, is the best way to go to a pay-per-view where you have to pay for them to fight. Do you know what I mean? This is why I like this segment. They didn't touch each other. They just said words to each other. They showed each other respect. They bigged each other up on the mic. I did like this segment.
The thing I like about this is they gave Angle the first open speak to get his words out. Yes. And he went into great detail about why he wanted to face Sting, how important it was going to be, and all that. And then Sting said, "No joking around."
Yes,
I respect
that stupid joker gimmick. He was serious this time, which I liked.
Because he said, "No joking around. I respect you as much as you respect me. I think you're the greatest that there is, and I look forward to our match." So I think the way they spoke to each other in this definitely gave us the good feeling about their match at the pay-per-view.
And it all just went to go round like a very good go-home show, in my opinion. There's always good points about the go-home show. I like the way this feud has been done. I do feel that Angle might win the match, just because I feel he's the better guy to be able to give us a title to a younger guy like a Crimson or a Gunner if they're going to do that, or maybe even a Samoa Joe. What else? Any other points you want to go on to before we go on to the bad?
I normally say bad things about Sting, but tonight on TNA, I couldn't see much bad about him. It was actually the Sting that I actually enjoyed watching.
And he wasn't run down our fucking throats this week, was he?
No, he weren't all joke. He was really serious, ready for the pay-per-view. So
definitely,
I say that was good.
Right, so let's use the last couple of minutes to go on to the bad stuff of TNA, because there was some bad this week, despite our very, very good grading of the show. One bad thing I think I'll start off with was the Miss Tetchmarker versus Madison Rain match. You know, you see this match and you think to yourself, none of these are booked at the pay-per-view. Why are they having a match? Why not have Mickie James or Winter involved in a match, which will probably do better to help the pay-per-view hype, because it's focusing on them and not two people that aren't involved at the fucking pay-per-view.
Well, the good thing about that, I'm going to change that to a good thing as well. Even though them two were facing each other, we had Mickie James who had to stay in good health on commentary.
She did well on commentary, yes.
Yes, I think she had to stay in good health, because anything could have happened between that match. I think giving her a break and giving her a run through of the possible in future opponents.
Yes.
So I think, and then she'd get involved after the match, because there was that attack when Winter and they came down and attacked. So she actually did get some involvement leading to pay-per-view.
I don't think the match was very good either. I just don't rate Miss Tetchmarker as a wrestler. I don't even rate Madison Rain as a wrestler, really. Miss Tetchmarker just seems one of those people that really should be a WWE diva. She's just a model, not really very good wrestler in my opinion. I've never really rated her.
I kind of would keep her away from WWE, because WWE are trying to improve their diva thing now with what they're doing. She should just either stay here or just go off and do something else.
Yeah.
But the match itself, it wasn't the greatest matches.
No.
I'm kind of glad it finished when it did.
Yeah, same here. Quick. It was very quick. One of the matches I'm glad didn't get enough time. Oh God. Devon beating AJ Styles. Why is this in our bad, MJ? I think it's obvious, really, isn't it?
Well, I've said this before. I look at AJ and think, right, we have a future TNA event.
He's already a top guy in TNA. He's probably the best, one of the the most recognisable faces they have in TNA, apart from probably Kurt Angle.
At the moment, he's not actually getting involved in the main event. So I'm thinking, for having to lose against someone as low as Devon, it's not going to do any justice for AJ.
No.
Not good for his career. I know he can get past this and go and do good things, but he's already lost to Devon now. That's going to look horrible for whatever he does next.
I still don't understand why Devon is getting so many points in this fucking Bound for Glory series. I mean, when you have AJ Styles versus Devon, I can understand that people might say it was a surprise, but there's a difference between a surprise and, something stupid like this. I do feel like Devon getting all these points now is just kind of like, why are you giving Devon this push? Especially against people like AJ Styles, who really need to be up for, really far up there in this Bound for Glory series tournament, I believe. Because he's one of the top guys they have, and I do feel he needs to be very high up in this tournament. This is just stopping him further.
Well, I'm thinking that the only good thing we say about this is that it weren't a normal pin. It was a roll-up, so it kind of made think, at least they've done it that way, so just on a clean-out pin. So
we had the involvement of Smith Christopher Daniels as well, which kind of might have teased something to Hardcore Justice, which is why I feel this was done, in my opinion.
Yeah, so there's some good out of that match.
Yeah. Also, the Samoa Joe Pope match. While this was a decent match, I thought it's got a good amount of time. Samoa Joe getting DQ'd. I don't like the fact that they're making him hold onto the hold, even though he's, you know, obviously won the match. I don't know why they've done it. I know he's letting out his frustration, but you know, come on, he's won the match. He wants the points. He's got 10 points there.
That's what I was going to say, because yes, he's been losing match after match after match, pay-per-view as well.
Yep.
I'm thinking he's going to obviously be angry at himself and his opponents, which we saw in one of these segments backstage. But I'm just trying to think that with Samoa Joe knowing that he's won the match, I would have just said, yes, I've got my point. I would not have carried on letting frustration out. I would have held that frustration into a later match and got more points. But so I think that was pretty sad for Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
But again, our thoughts are this is going to eventually lead to something.
Definitely.
Samoa Joe getting more points in the future.
Like a big sort of comeback, like, you know, last week he wins like 8 matches in a row by, you know, submission or something, gets 80 points, gets in that way. I mean, I feel that could be done, and let's face it, if he does that, it'll give him a huge push going into No Surrender, which means that he could quite plausibly win that match, even though he's not being pushed now. He's got, you know, such a hot push that he probably could, especially if they do that. I'm not sure if they will, but if they do. So
as long as he can control himself, again, I think there's still a chance for Samoa Joe, but on TNA, it just worked great for him.
Yep. The next segment, it's these segments that really piss me off. Because you have Eric Young, who is your TV champion, not involved in any feud, not involved at the pay-per-view, not really involved at the TV tapings. Why, number one, why is he the TV champion? Number two, why is he in a fucking stupid segment like this which has nothing to do with the pay-per-view? And I'm thinking to myself, why are TNA doing this when they could spend more time hyping their pay-per-view, giving matches longer time? It just seems like a most pointless fucking segment ever. I hate these segments. I'm really starting to hate Eric Young, and I know you are too.
I've hated Eric Young for a long time. He's the one TNA thing I just think they're just wasting TNA's little money they get on someone that's so pointless as Eric Young and giving these segments. He's not doing anything for TNA. So I'm thinking, get rid of him. I keep saying this week after week after week, but his segments don't get any better. So I think just get rid of him and use that little bit of time that you give him to someone else.
Yep, so that's... Well, we'll leave that right there because I don't really want to talk about Eric Young anymore. I'm a bit fed up with him. But, I mean, overall, TNA, a very good go-home show. There's always going to be bad in TNA, but, you know, not too much bad this week, apart from the Devon AJ Styles, Eric Young bit was really bad. But overall, I think this show warranted a B+ from our review. I really think it did.
I think it's definitely got its main thing was to get us ready for the pay-per-view, and it's definitely done its job.
Yep. Okay then, shall we go on to SmackDown now then, eh?
Yes, let's.
So we move on to SmackDown now. SmackDown this week didn't open with a segment involving Teddy Long, Triple H, Randy Orton and Christian. It opened up with a match. We had Sheamus versus Great Khali. NJ, your initial thoughts?
Okay. Khali, as we see in the past, before he came to his face, he was this dominant, slow monster. So, of course, people are going to be scared of him or have some fear of him. Then he came in face, so that kind of went out the window. So when he went into this match against Sheamus, I was like, I don't really care. If he stayed as a monster, maybe I thought, ooh, there's a match going here. But at the same time, it gave Khali something to do, and it gave Sheamus a win over someone who's been seen as a monster and still has the height advantage in that. So I think, again, it did good for Sheamus.
It's really put him over as a babyface as well, because we know now he's got strength and he can beat big guys like that as a face. So which is good. But the main thing about this, in my opinion, was that we opened with a match rather than a fucking opening segment. That's what I liked about this, just the fact we opened with a match. It was something different, something that SmackDown don't do very often. Even though the match wasn't great, at least it still did its job of putting Sheamus over as a face, which was the main thing I believe this segment was done to, to make sure he was a pure face going into SummerSlam. That was what this segment was needed for.
Because we've said before, SmackDown need the faces, and I'm thinking with this, the way they making Sheamus become a face is absolutely great. I think they've done it right. They put them against the guys that you would see.
The biggest heel.
That's Big Heel in that. So I think they've done it perfectly. They definitely gave Sheamus a good look going into SummerSlam. Yep,
the Irish ginger-haired man. Looking strong going into the pay-per-view, of course. Another segment which I think was very good. And on Raw, we had Beth Phoenix turn heel. On SmackDown this week, we had Natalya turn heel. I didn't expect to see this. One of the reasons I think this is interesting is because, like we said in the Raw thing, divas do need more heels. And Natalya turning heel was interesting because we don't really expect this girl to turn heel. And she's turning heel because obviously there's this whole thing going around that the divas, the better divas feel like they're not getting the rub of the green that the sort of, the more model divas are. So it's good that they're turning heel so they can assert their dominance. I feel people like Natalia and Beth Phoenix would suit better as heel because they can assert their dominance because they're great wrestlers.
Well, you normally think of Natalia as a face just from how she acts and how she looks and that. The thing is, the only problem I'm going to have with this Natalia turning to be a heel is that a good match would have been Beth Phoenix versus Natalia.
Yeah.
We've said that in the past. And I'm thinking, now it can't happen because you've got heel and heel now. But at the same time, it gives us more heels that we've lost in the Divas thing. So I think it's done good as well.
And I think, do you know what I think this whole thing's done for? To put AJ over. I really think it's been done because WWE have faith in AJ and they want to put her over as a Divas babyface. I think that's why this has been done. I really do.
Well, I'll have to see, but all I have to say is that we've got 2 new heels now. And I'm thinking that is going to do great for both Raw and now.
And it's added a lot of interest to the Divas division, I think, now. Especially with those 2 heel turns. I really am a little bit more interested in seeing Natalia and Beth Phoenix.
Because the only heels we've really had were the Flip Bella Twins and
Alicia Fox. Really, that was it.
So I think now, as Alicia Fox is doing nothing, Bella's had their time. We definitely need 2 new ones, and we've got them. So
definitely
good.
The next thing we had a From the Vault segment this week. Usually I bash From the Vault segments, but when I saw this match, Jericho versus Punk, I immediately said to you, let's watch this match. Because usually we would skip this because we hate From the Vault segments. But I really wanted to see Jericho Punk.
The thing is, as soon as I see Punk in a...
especially against Jericho.
From the Vault. Well, Jericho's okay. But obviously, when I see Punk, I want to see how he's adapted, how he's grown into where he is now. Because it showed you him as the World Heavyweight Champion. So it shows you him as a champion going into a match against someone as talented as Chris Jericho.
Yep, a very good match as well. We watched the whole thing. Usually we wouldn't do that with From the Vault, so we would just skip them because usually we hate From the Vault segments. So that's a positive there. WWE actually made a decent From the Vault segment, which had a bit of meaning to it.
It did, because it made Punk, again, show more of Punk's in-ring ability, ready for his match at SummerSlam. Right,
the next thing, I think we'll both have a little bit of we'll both have a bit of things to say about this. Daniel Bryan versus Tyson Kidd. I feel this match was... The reason why I like this match is because it got good time. I do feel that WWE are really using this Daniel Bryan gimmick quite well in the fact that he's not just a submission guy, but he's a guy that can put on a 10-minute... I like the way WWE are throwing him out every week for 10 minutes and having him beat someone, because it shows that he's a great wrestler, and this is what WWE need to put him over as, because that is what he is. He's a great wrestler, and this is one of the reasons I like this match. He goes against Tyson Kidd, not really, but not the best guy ever. You'd expect Daniel Bryan to beat someone like him in no time. But the fact they're giving him 10 minutes and actually showcasing his wrestling skills, I really like. But I know you have some points against that, though.
Well, the thing is, I've grown to like Daniel Bryan now over the years. I'm still thinking that he could have faced someone a bit more that would have made him look a bit more credible, a bit more better.
But I don't want to see him bury a decent guy. That's the problem. That's why I like him against Tyson Kidd.
It wouldn't be buried, because obviously if he can face someone that can actually put on a good fight, it would be 2 great wrestlers to put on a good fight.
Who would you use, though? Who would just out of interest?
Well, I can't really think of a SmackDown roster from the top of my head. But
there's not really many people.
No, which is the main problem, is we'll go on to a bit later, because it does come into this. But I'm thinking that it could have made a bit more of an interesting match with Daniel Bryan. But Tyson Kidd, again, he's not going to go anywhere, as that's probably his job now. I think for him to go into a match against Daniel Bryan, it weren't the best of matches.
I thought it was really good. I honestly did. 10 minutes.
I was just unsure, because it's just that, Daniel Bryan showing his skills, but I just, again, don't agree with Tyson Kidd.
I actually thought Tyson Kidd did alright in this match, personally. I don't like Tyson Kidd that much, but I still think he did okay. He did his part.
I think I'm just sticking to Daniel Bryan could have played someone else.
Okay.
And then we had Wade Barrett on commentary, which was absolutely awesome, because he had this dark match.
Yeah, against Colt Cabana,
Yeah, so look straight past that. He actually used his great mic skills as a commentator, and I'm thinking he actually definitely spoke a lot about Daniel Bryan, so it definitely got you a feeling of their possible feud going to SummerSlam.
Yeah, I hope that does happen, because I think it will be a good match. The one thing I like, WWE are actually using Wade Barrett's mic skills lately. They had him cut a promo last week. This week they have him on commentary, and I did really like him as a commentator, because he added a lot of insight into Daniel Bryan. He was saying, I'm here to scout Daniel Bryan, just always he's shown me his hand and all that kind of stuff. I really liked it, especially during the match itself. It kind of really teased something between Daniel Bryan and Wade Barrett possibly going into the pay-per-view.
The thing is, with Wade Barrett on commentary, he explained why he doesn't like Daniel Bryan, why he wants to go up against him, why he wants to defeat him, why the Money in the Bank was so important to him, and how he should have been the winner. It's definitely got you thinking that he really wants to go up against Daniel Bryan. So I'm kind of thinking, it kind of having Wade Barrett on the commentary kind of dragged me away from them Daniel Bryan's match a bit, because contrary to what Wade Barrett had to say.
Anything else you want to say about that before we just move on to the next thing?
Yeah, that's it.
I just thought it was a really good match. I really enjoyed it. Mark Henry defeated another jobber this week, this time in Kozlov. And as we found out later, Kozlov was released. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, I know you have different opinions on this, possibly. I like the fact they're giving Mark Henry jobbers, because again, they're not giving him some guy who, when we see, in past SmackDowns, we see Daniel Bryan versus Cody Rhodes so many times, and someone has to get buried in that thing. And I love the fact they're giving Henry a jobber to beat, because it's still keeping him look strong, and people that are jobbers, that don't have much relevance now, it's good that they're just having him squash a guy just to keep the push going.
Well, the thing with Mark Henry, they kind of hinted that the thing with Mark Henry, there's so many things I could say here. Number one,
he won't be in the main event ever.
He's had Kane, Big Show taken out, so you can't really have the whole great monster versus monster thing going on. That actually did great for Mark Henry. The other thing is that we've had Zack Ryder and Deal Along bring in jobbers to face Mark Henry to continue his monstrous attack. So I'm thinking, with him going against Kozlov, again, the match weren't long or anything. Mark Henry managed to just knock out Sheamus quickly and continue his monster attack and just take out Kozlov. So I think this is actually done pretty good for Mark Henry's image to continue ready for SummerSlam.
And we even had Sheamus come in and make the save again, getting the better up on Mark Henry. Because let's face it, who the fuck has got one up on Mark Henry in his last 2 months? And then Sheamus comes in. We all know he's a very powerful guy. Needs to be established as a face. And what better way to establish him as a face than against Mark Henry? And then we have the match made between Sheamus. Well, we have a tease of a match. It's not been officially announced yet, I don't believe. But we have a tease of what we might see at SummerSlam, which is Sheamus versus Mark Henry. They do tease the fact that they want to have some kind of match at the pay-per-view.
Well,
backstage segment.
That goes back to me saying that he's taken out the monsters. Like, Carly was not going to go against Mark Henry.
No.
He's taken out Big Show, who was a possible continuous feud. He's taken up Kane, who was not doing anything. So I think having Sheamus step in while Kane and Big Show are out was a good thing, because it's going to help Sheamus continue looking like a face, and the match, obviously, we're going to see more of Mark Henry's strength. So I think the way they've made this between these two wrestlers was pretty good.
So they've done this feud right, do you think? Turning Sheamus face, using Mark Henry's dominance to establish that.
I think it will continue showing, yeah.
I do hope for the sake of SmackDown that Kane and Sin Cara come back sooner rather than later, though, because they do really need strengthened roster, and they can't really afford to lose 2 guys like that, especially 2 guys that can play prominent roles in a show. Do you know what I mean?
That is true, yeah.
So hopefully Kane will come back from his kayfabe injury soon, hopefully, and Big Show too. Main event. We had Christian and R-Truth versus John Morrison and Randy Orton. What did you like about this main event, MJ?
Okay. Again, we had... Well, we had R-Truth, which, again, a wrestler I've grown to like. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's a face and a heel. And I'm saying that this match... pretty much.
Sorry.
The match itself, I think it was, again, like the tag matches on Raw. It was actually a good match. It actually got the 4 wrestlers involved and getting ready for their matches and their rivalries.
Yep. This is where me and NJ are now probably going to have one of the biggest arguments you've ever seen between us. Because I feel in this match that Christian pinning Randy Orton was a good thing, but you don't, do you? The reason why I feel this is a good thing is because I know that I don't like to see, champions pinning challengers and stuff like that, but I feel it's got to the point now where Randy Orton, when anything that makes Randy Orton not come out on top towards the end of the show, I am all for. And even if that means Christian pinning Randy Orton, even though I do feel in these tag matches, you should have 2 people. You should have 2 people from the opposite feuds pinning each other, because then you get those 2 involved. But I've got to the point now on SmackDown where I don't give a shit about that anymore, because as long as Randy Orton doesn't come out on top in the night, which he didn't tonight, which I enjoyed, I would take that over anything.
The way I look at it now,
Yeah, here we go.
the way I look at it now is the match. It did good because you got to see them all wrestling each other and all going at each other. We had a bit of John Morrison and R-Truth attacking each other, which again I'm thinking they could have done the whole TNA thing where they don't really touch each other too much or at all, and they could have gave us that kind of feeling. But now they've done it again. I'm just kind of hoping that they try and drag that away next week with the whole Christian pinning Orton. I'm thinking that it could have been done differently. We could have had.
There's no point of a tag match, isn't it? You have other people in there you can pin.
Yeah, which I'm thinking would have been an idea.
Pin John Morrison again, though.
Orton would have still lost the match, which is the main thing. But it's just that we've seen a pin, a pretty clean pin with Christian over Orton. It's kind of got me thinking, right, so now we've got to look at SummerSlam match and think Orton versus Christian. How's that going to turn out after we've just seen this on SmackDown?
I do see your point, because I do feel the same way about a lot of the time. It's just that this week I take exception just because Orton didn't fucking come out on top, and I'm fucking glad he didn't. But we both have different views on that, of course. We don't have the same opinions on everything. No. That's why we're two different people, even though we have the same show.
That's true.
And we're both united as one, unlike the core, even though they're now broken. But there we go. The thing about this match, to back up NJ's point, this is a tag match, right? And you have the opportunity to pin someone else. Like, for example, in the Raw match, R-Truth pinned Morrison. Why couldn't have R-Truth pin Rey Mysterio? It would have made so much more sense, especially in the two feuds going together. They wouldn't have pinned each other. It's the same in this one, which is what it did annoy me. But at the same time, I was so glad that Orton didn't come out on top during the end of the pay. They actually made the champion look strong.
They could have made Orton not come out on top in a different way,
or a disqualification,
stuff like that. Yeah. It's just that we've seen Christian pinning Orton now. I'm just thinking, well, oh great, that's going to do great for your match.
Here's an idea: why not use the fact they're having a no holds barred match and have either Christian or Orton come in the ring with a chair and in the match with a disqualification or something? The
thing is, that wouldn't have done fair to the other two who were in the match. If it was like a singles match, then fine. But the fact that we had other two wrestlers that needed to look good in the match, which I kind of think they looked good against each other, but they still had too much. That's the problem I had with this. You had Christian attacking Orton, Orton attacking Christian, John Morrison attacking R-Truth, R-Truth attacking Morrison. Too much in this match, and it should have been like the opposite rivalries attacking each other. But
for the majority. You can understand it a little bit, but a majority.
Yeah, and I think there was just too much of it in this match.
Yeah, the main event, though, was very good. I did like the main event. It's just there's a lot of nitpicking, a lot of implications there that kind of say to you, oh, bad booking. Even though I did think a lot of the booking on SmackDown this week was a lot better, it's just that the show lacked a full card. You know what I mean? The matches were booked good. You had jobbers. You had the right people looking strong. It's just that there wasn't very much entertainment, and it didn't. And they seemed to have all their main event guys in the last match, and it's just like you've got to find other wrestlers to fill this card where we have other people on SmackDown.
That's true, and as you can hear, we're naming the bad points of SmackDown. Now we're going to go on to the first bad point, which was for some reason they decided to have the match Zack Ryder, who was the assistant general manager of SmackDown, versus the Intercontinental Champion Zeke.
All I can say here is at least Zeke squashed Zack Ryder, and because I hate Zack Ryder, that is a plus. But I don't know why they made the match. It was kind of stupid.
And then we all had too much people involved again. We had Ted Cody, we had Theodore Long, we had Zack Ryder. It was all all scrambled up in this.
Why don't you just have Zeke and Cody Rhodes and Teddy Biasi in a segment on their own?
That would have done something more instead of having all this involved in one little match.
Yeah, and Teddy Long as well, unfortunately. Coming out dancing, he's looking happier nowadays, isn't he? I think Vince McMahon might have just given him a vote of confidence on his GM ship, though.
Shame, but I still think, again, this could be doing another video another time, but Theodore Long, we need a replacement.
Yeah, we do, and I don't like Zack Ryder either.
No.
We had a 6-person tag match. The Nexus, again, featured on TV, which was good in my opinion, and JTG versus Trent Beretta and the Usos. My question here, and I think NJ will agree with me, why was it a 6-man tag when you could have gotten a much better match out of it just being a tag team match? Maybe even for the tag titles.
I kind of think that the way they, not the tag titles, because I wouldn't have had that on a Raw and on a SmackDown.
Mm.
It would have been kind of too much depending.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm thinking Usos versus Nexus or David and Michael now. That's been seen before, so I think adding 2 jobs in was just to make the match different to what we've already seen.
Mm.
But I think the match itself, it showed the dominance of Nexus. Oh, I keep calling him Nexus because that's where I see him. But David and Michael, and
Tatunga and Regular K,
yeah, and I think it showed their dominance. So I think it did good for them. But the match itself, it was just a bit of a weird match to throw in on SmackDown.
Yeah, it really was. So, do you have any other bad points you want to go on to? I mean, a lot of bad points were actually intertwined with the good points. So,
They were, yes.
anything else you want to add?
Like, if we go over to the rest of SmackDown, like, that goes back to Daniel Bryan versus Tyler Kidd. Bring that as a bad point, which is our last point on our list, is that the SmackDown don't have a good enough roster for there to be interesting matches. Yes, there's wrestlers, if you look on the roster list, that are not being used. It's kind of poor thinking, him versus him, that could have worked. And I'm just thinking, with their lack of roster, it just made matches kind of difficult to make.
Yeah, the thing is, right, I've seen previous episodes of SmackDowns where they've had good matches. Like, you know, you have Wade Barrett, Zeke, and like Cody Rhodes, Daniel Bryan. It's just that the only point about that is, from a booking standpoint, someone's going to get buried, and if they're going to make that match at a pay-per-view, then they kind of already had it. This week, though, they used jobbers, you know, which is good because you had their look strong, but it does, like you said, highlight the fact that their roster is very, very weak, especially in the main event segment of the SmackDown show. It really does highlight that.
Yeah, that was the main problem. But over that, I think SmackDown was an okay show.
Wasn't great, was it though? It wasn't
not the best, no. It weren't, pretty much.
Yeah, SmackDown showing few signs of improvement, but it really needs to do a bit more than that. I think the main problem is the roster. It just doesn't really help the fact they have such a shit roster.
And the thing is, the thing the WWE have to look at now is they've got a week left before SummerSlam. They definitely need to concentrate on their ideas leading to the pay-per-view.
Yeah, get us excited, WWE. Do what TNA did this week. Right, I think that's pretty much it for SmackDown, isn't it?
That is pretty much it.
Well, let's go on to our overall thoughts then, NJ. So going on to our overall thoughts now, NJ, I think I speak for us both when we say that Raw was the best show of the week, followed by TNA, followed by SmackDown. Now, I do think TNA and Raw were a bit closer because TNA put on a very good go-home show. Raw put on a very good show which showcased the feuds that were going to go into SummerSlam, really, which I think there was a big difference between the show, but still made them both very good, very close in terms of grade.
Well, I kind of enjoyed Raw more than TNA. Yep. All the stuff they had in Raw definitely got us really ready to see what happens next week. It got us thinking what's going to happen in the near future. TNA, it definitely gave us a good event before the pay-per-view, so I'm saying that's going to be good. And SmackDown again was the worst, but it had things in there that gave us thinking ready for next week and ready for SummerSlam.
Yeah, so that's pretty much, well, for the 3 shows, Raw, TNA, and SmackDown. It's pretty standard, really, isn't it? Every week, Raw is usually the best, TNA is usually the next best, and SmackDown is usually the worst.
Yeah,
SmackDown's the big show, I guess.
All we can do is hope that within, like, for WWE, they have a week left, improve or get ideas ready for the SummerSlam, and for TNA just to now work on after their Hardcore Justice to work on the ready for the next pay-per-view.
So the TNA and WWE have 2 pay-per-views which they really need to hype up for. Which they really need to build up for. TNA have Hardcore Justice, which is this Sunday, which we're going to be reviewing, and WWE have got one of their big 4 pay-per-views of the year, SummerSlam, which they really need to do a lot of work on because that is their big 4. Before we leave, though, NJ, where can these people contact us?
You can contact us in the many links in the description box below.
Yes, we have facebook.com/BritishFist, twitter.com/BritishFist, and we both have Skypes also. Make sure you check those out in the description box below. Also, while I'm here, I'll plug our YouTube channels because NJ has a YouTube channel where he does movie reviews, wrestling videos. It's NJ17. And I have a channel too. It's Mr. Parkin01. Check it out in the description box below. Also, make sure you keep commenting below your thoughts on what you heard in this video, etc. And NJ, just take us out, mate.
So please, you've heard our overall thoughts of the week. What are your thoughts of the overall week? Because obviously we've said our opinions. We just want to hear yours before the full week is over.
If you've watched it this far, of course.
That is true. And what we'll say now is this one word that we say at the end of every video, which is Goodbye.
Goodbye.